Thank you for watching the Abundant Life Family Podcast. I'm Bill.
And I'm Jen.
We're the Hildebrands, and we're helping to build families that last. Today we have with us Drew Davis, and we're going to talk about intentional parenting, parenting through experiences. Well, Drew, thank you for being with us today. It's so great to have you on the couch with us. And I know that you are in the business world. You have a great job doing that, but yet on the side, you've done something else. Tell us about what God has put on your heart and actually you and your wife together.
Yeah, Bill. So about 3 years ago, my wife and I had this dream. We were sitting outside having a conversation about how this vision or this dream that I have to start an outdoor ministry. And so maybe before that, talk a little bit about my wife and our kids. So I have, my wife's name is Charissa, and we have 4 kids with a 5th one on the way.
Oh my goodness.
You have
a full house.
It is a very full house.
I love it.
And a very full vehicle.
Yes.
Right now.
So true.
So we have a 9-year-old named Olivia, 7-year-old named Maverick. I always get them confused. A 5-year-old named Thea, and then a 3-year-old named Hendrix. And then we find out tomorrow what our number 5 will be.
Oh my.
Wow.
So very excited about that.
Two of you so far. You got a lot of energy.
We got the tiebreaker coming tomorrow. So, well, we find out what the tiebreaker is tomorrow.
This is one of each.
Yeah, we got one. Yeah,
Twins?
Okay,
Oh no.
Are you voting for one or the other, girl or boy, or are you up in the air? It doesn't matter.
So it's a 50-50 in the house. Everyone but Maverick and I is going for girl.
Okay.
And Maverick's thought is we need 2 boys, twin boys, in order for the boys to win. Because we just got a girl dog.
Yeah.
So his thought is we need twin boys or we're just forever going to lose. And I just told him you just got to get used to losing, bud. Because
I love it.
So
that's great.
But yeah, so it's fun. But so we started our business about 3 years ago. It's called Equipped Outdoors. And the whole premise of it is to help introduce men and fathers and their kids to the outdoors. And I remember it was probably about this time 3 years ago, we were talking about what this could look like. It's a big dream. I'm a dreamer, so it was hey, what if we had this and this ranch in Montana and all these cool things. But then reality sets in, and I'm like, look, we don't have that or the means to get to there here and today, so maybe it's never going to happen. And Carissa's such an encourager. She looked at me and she said, what's the bare minimum that we need? What could that look like? And I realized realistically all we need is some backpacks and a lot of energy. And so that's where we landed on. And fast forward 3 years later, we've introduced 137 individuals to the outdoors, including 47 kids under the age of 13. We've taught classes at a university, at a couple homeschool things, and it's just been really cool to be able to introduce kids that may not have ever had a chance to learn about the outdoors and do things that are hard. We always tell them, hey, it's good to experience new things, and just because they're hard, does it make them impossible, or does it make them something that we shouldn't go strive for?
You mentioned dads and men. Do you take women as well?
So we do families.
Okay.
We do a lot of families, and being a married guy, I try not to take women out on a trip by myself, just from an accountability perspective.
Absolutely.
But we definitely have opportunities for families to go out, and couples. We're doing our first couples trip this fall, which is going to be awesome.
Wow.
So.
Well, the big question is why? Why do you do this?
Yeah. So, I mentioned it earlier. Charissa and I really believe that experiences are really important. Things come and go. We
Yep.
watch the toys in our house be really exciting for a little bit, and then slowly the interest in them dissipate, and we have the choice at that point in time. Okay, do we go buy them a new toy, or what do we do? So we actually, with our things in our house, we kind of rotate them. We put our toys in boxes and then throw them in the basement for another 6 months, and then they come back out, and it's like a brand new toy for the kids. But then
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
yeah, I mean, it's all Charissa. She's the
Yeah.
brains behind that. But no, we really found that, and I grew up with experiences. For me, it was, my dad. I didn't have a ton of time with my dad as he was traveling,
Yeah.
and so it was really, hey, what is the things I remember the most with my dad wasn't when he bought me this thing. It was when we hiked to this waterfall, or when we went and sat out on this lake, or whatever it was. And so that's really the focus that Charissa and I have with our kids, is we want to have experiences with them.
Yeah. It's
and
the
that
power of those memories
Yeah.
that you create in those experiences. And I know I just really resonate with that, with thinking back to my own childhood. I don't really remember the gifts or all, the things that maybe my grandpa and grandma gave me, or my mom and dad. But I do remember specific experiences where I went to an amusement park. I'd never been, and I went there. My grandpa and grandma took me to an amusement park, and I just remember spending that time and that experience with them way more powerful than
Totally.
if they would have given me something. And so I love this idea and this topic of really just encouraging our families to really get on board with this idea.
Yeah,
That's right.
definitely.
So today, I mean, I never bring my phone out here for the video, but I wanted to share a stat that, American adults today spend 2 hours and 51 minutes on their phones.
That's a lot.
American teenagers, they spend over 7 hours in entertainment on their phones. And so what you're talking about is pitching the phone and getting outside and doing something.
Yeah, definitely. And, especially in this world kind of post 2020, where so many people are working virtually, working remote, myself included. I mean, even I as a parent struggle with that. I get up and I have my quiet time, but if I'm not careful, the first thing I start doing is reading emails and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's even high for adults. But, to add on to that, I mean, there's a statistic that says that 75% of the time that we have with our kids is gone by the time that they're 12.
75%.
Yeah. And then it gets even crazier. 90%, somewhere around there, is gone by the time that they're 18. And so if you think that if our teenagers, so between 13 and 18, are spending 7 hours a day on their phones, then that's taken away from that 90% that we get with them. And so how can we truly be intentional with the time that we get with them?
Yeah.
And really, it's, if you give them stuff, that's going to take away from that time. And so you give them experiences. It's, hey, how can we experience things together? That way I can help influence them and grow them and develop them and work through those hard things that they're experiencing. Because then they're experiencing things that they may otherwise experience on their own, but they get to experience them with me.
So I feel like that comes, pretty natural to you to come up with these experiences. But we're all not like you, Drew or Charissa, and we might struggle thinking of an experience. So just share with us what some of those experiences are and why they're so impactful.
Yeah, so, a lot of, again, I'm the visionary, so I always think of that massive thing. But it doesn't always have to be that $20,000 ski trip.
Oh, sure.
Right? Like, thank the Lord, right?
Yes.
I mean, and we go to the beach and we have fun there, but, there's so many small things that we can do. I mean, Charissa does an amazing job at taking there's creeks around here that they'll go and they'll splash around in the creek, and they'll catch crawdads and make little houses for them. And we homeschool, so she's always turning everything into some sort of an educational moment too. Moms are really good at that. So, so I mean, there's things like that. There's, we go, for Maverick, he does BMX, and so we get to experience that together. The kids, the girls get to. They do dance, and so they get to. Charissa was a dancer all the way through college, so they get to do that together. But then we also, we do a lot of family hikes. And while we're
here in
just
in the area,
in the Kansas City area,
okay,
we've went and rented Airbnbs down in Bentonville, down in Arkansas, and we go down and we hike around on the mountain biking trails, and lo and behold, we always find creeks to play in. So, we do a lot of stuff like that. When we're on vacation, we don't just stay. We don't just stay at the condo or go to play. A lot of people go play mini golf, or they go, and that's good. That's I mean, last time we went and played mini golf, it was insane. My 3-year-old was fishing with his golf club. My 9-year-old had zero interest in golfing at all. My 7-year-old thought it was the most amazing thing ever. And my 5-year-old would go, and she was laying on the ground and really shooting pool with a golf club. So it was very entertaining.
So let's go down that road. You're a family, and it sounds like some of your kids were enjoying that experience. And some of your kids were not enjoying that experience. And I know with our family, we would call it FFF, forced family fun. Because some of them would love it, and some of them would be like, oh, I don't want to go. I don't want like, we're going. So go down that road a little bit. And how do you navigate that?
So we, someone I know, a lot of people who are listening probably know, a guy named Matt Bartle. He says something that really resonated with me, which is, you can take an unwilling kid, never take an unwilling wife.
Oh, I like that.
And I think that's really important, right?
It is.
I want to make sure Charissa is happy and comfortable, because she has to participate in that activity.
Yeah.
And if she and I aren't on the same page, then that experience is going to be ruined for our kids.
Yeah.
And they're going to remember us being unhappy. They're not going to remember the experience that we're trying to set up.
That's an excellent tip.
So I think, again, make sure that you can take an unwilling kid, but don't take an unwilling wife, and or vice versa. But with our kids, we'll tell them, hey, no, we're gonna go, and you don't have to enjoy it, but we are going to spend time together as a family.
Do you find that somewhere in that where a kid's uncomfortable, or just do they eventually somehow get on board, or is it sometimes it's just a little miserable, sometimes a little bit?
Yeah, they always ultimately get on board. I mean, I think that there's going to be that, frustration that's going to be shown at the very beginning. It's probably in the car on the way there. But ultimately, they do end up having fun. And, there have been times that wasn't the case. I think we have to, one thing that we do really, that we're very intentional about doing, is making sure that just because we have a plan, you want to be flexible with that plan. And anytime you're dealing with experiences, or especially with the outdoors, you always have to be flexible.
So give me an example. What do you mean by that?
So like yesterday, we were on a walk around our neighborhood, and we were planning on going back home and making food and having dinner. And our neighbor pulled up alongside us with his pontoon and was like, hey, do you guys want to go out on the boat? And I had two choices. Either yes or no, we have to get home and the kids have to go to bed. And so I chose the exciting dad at that point in time. And I made sure Charissa was okay with it. Hey, are you okay with this? And then, we did. And that was just an example of, hey, we went out for what was planned to be a 15-minute family walk and turned into a 2-hour evening of the kids swimming around. Some had bathing suits on, some didn't, but it was an
And
experience.
I love that, because you could have easily said, oh, we don't have our swimming suits. Our kids, did they just swim in their clothes? Did they just, or
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Oh, see, and I love that. I'm telling you, not everyone would do that. They would be like, well, we don't have swimming suits, so.
Yeah.
But you just went ahead and embraced that experience, and why not swim in your clothes?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? I mean, kids don't care. I don't know if necessarily as adults whether
Yeah,
I'd want
no.
to swim, but
Yeah.
your kids, absolutely.
But no,
see, and I love that.
They love that. They love the spontaneity. I think it
Yeah.
teaches them that, things in life are going to come up that you aren't going to be ready for, and sometimes you have to weigh the odds. You have to. And I remember we've had scenarios like that come up where they ask the question, wait, is this okay? And you're like, yeah, why is it not okay? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, your clothes smell like the lake, and you go wash them. It's not
Not a
going to
big
hurt
deal.
you. But then you have other times where, just last week, Charissa took the kids on a hike out at the local conservation area, and they got like 100 feet onto the trail, and they were just covered in mosquitoes. And so they were like, well, this is not going to be fun. This experience is going to be the wrong type of experience we want to have. And so I think by Charissa, she said, hey, we're going to call an audible. We're going to turn around. We're going to go back. We're going to get out of the woods. And we're just going to, she said that they ended up just throwing rocks in the lake at the conservation place for like half an hour.
Yeah.
And the kids loved it. They came home talking about it. I mean, they were filthy, but they came home talking about it and how much fun that they had.
I remember, I'm sorry.
Even adults can have fun throwing rocks. I mean,
Absolutely.
we went
Oh,
on
yeah.
vacation to northern Wisconsin, and we're sitting on the shore throwing rocks for an hour.
At least an hour, Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's a valid point to bring up, that when you're with your kids, experience it with your kids.
Yeah.
Like, throw rocks with them, get in the water with them, engage, conversations and all of that.
Yeah,
I was
very
just
much.
going to say, Charissa was sharing one time with me where she had it on the calendar that they were going to head to a particular park, and they were going to do it, or maybe it was the zoo. It could have been the zoo, and the kids were excited about going to the zoo. And that day came, and it was pouring down rain.
Yep.
And, me, I probably would have been like, well, it's pouring down rain. I don't know if we really want to go to the zoo today. That's not the experience that we were thinking. But she said, it's just a different experience. Put your raincoat on, put your boots on, and experience the zoo in a different way while it's raining. Like, it can be a good experience. It's just, it's a different one. And that has really impacted me as I think about experiences, even with our own kids, doing things like, oh, let's just persevere, and if we were intentional about putting it on the calendar, let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and that teaches them that it's so you can still accomplish your goals even when barriers or things come in front of you in life. You don't have to halt things. You don't have to stop.
Yeah.
It teaches them there's a good life lesson there as well. There's a saying in kind of the backcountry backpacking world that I do there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear. And really what that means is if you're prepared for it, anything can turn out good. If you're prepared for potential of rain, the time at the zoo or the park can still be fun.
Yeah.
And we still have a picture of that experience of all the kids pouring rain.
Yeah.
And they're all in their rain jackets and their sandals or their rain boots. And I mean, every single one of them had a smile on their face.
Yes.
And I mean, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's really just, are you prepared for it? Do you have the right gear to have fun?
So I think about our time in Kenya, and I took our boys to the Aberdares, and in the Aberdares, it's always cold, it's always rainy, because it's at the base of Mount Kenya, one of the tallest mountains, one of the year-round snow-covered mountains
That's awesome.
of all of Africa. And so we're there, but we're ready for cold, we're ready for wet. And I remember we spent an awful lot of time around the campfire. And we even had a fire indoors in this little shelter that we slept in, metal building, you know. But that smoke, it was strong. We stunk so bad, but we stayed warm because we knew what to expect and we had the right gear for it. Yeah.
And we still talk about it as a family.
Yeah.
You know, the guys, I wasn't there, but the guys still will bring it up and talk about all those things. And it's still a good experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does a busy family like yours, because part of this is it's intentional.
Yeah.
It's intentional. So how do you and Charissa do it?
So one thing that I think Charissa does really well is she created at the beginning of the summer. So everyone, we leveraged the summer, right? So she sat all the kids down and myself. She sat me down too. And she,
You're one of the kids.
Yeah, most of the time probably, yeah. And we had a conversation. It was, hey, what are your goals for this summer? And each one of the kids, and we created a summer goal list. And some of them were really silly, and some of them were a little bit bigger. Like, you know, some of them was like, hey, we want to go, like, we don't own a boat, but it was, hey, we want to go rent a boat and go out on the lake. Or some of them was, you know, we want to jump off the dock with our clothes on. Or, you know, and so we had all these.
You did some of that just last night.
We've done some, no, and that's the thing. And so it's a lot of fun. Exactly.
Jumping off a dock sounds great.
We create the list, and then we plan. When we're looking for something to do, we plan based off of what's on that list. And so that's a really good way for the kids to, it teaches the kids goal setting. It teaches them about finding the right opportunities. It teaches them all those different types of things. And so I think that's a great thing that, you know, I can't take credit for, but that we do in order to make sure that we are, you know, that we are actually being intentional and getting it on the calendar and then going and doing it.
The word intentional keeps coming up. And I think planning your work, planning your summer, being intentional about that. Some of those different excursions or activities take some real planning. Some of them don't take much at all. I mean, look at last night. You started out on a walk, and that didn't take any planning. It's just something you do. And then an opportunity came up while you were walking. There's other things that don't require a lot of planning, but can still bring great experiences. You also mentioned earlier, you know, growing up without a lot of money. These things don't have to cost a lot. And even when you have a tough experience, or maybe not everybody's enjoyed it like you thought they would, on the way home, you can stop for ice cream, and you don't have to stop at one of the big name ice cream joints. My wife teases me about this, but we go to the grocery store and get a package of vanilla ice cream and grab some M&Ms.
You have four boys, you know, we do. So it's like you get the biggest tub of ice cream you can, and you know, but it ends up being a good family experience.
Absolutely.
Just briefly share, what are the positives that you get from experience? I know we've talked a little bit beforehand about teaching your kids during those experiences that you wouldn't get. So what would be some of those things that when you go on these experiences, these are the things that happen, these teachable moments. What are some of those?
So there's always teachable moments. Then, you know, there's something that we, you know, I know in the family ministry we talk about a lot about looking for those God moments too, right? And, you know, anytime you're walking through an experience in life, I feel like God has put us to be parents to help kids, again, during that 70% of their life is up by the time, or 70% of our time with them is up by the time that they're 12. You know, He's given us the opportunity to, if we so choose to take it, to have those conversations with our kids. And the experiences that they have now are going to be the same experiences that they're going to have later in the business world or in when they're raising their families. And we get the opportunity to kind of help them learn how to navigate that. And so I think we as parents, back to the intentional question, we as parents have to choose, I mean, honestly, it's, are we going to be lazy, or are we going to really
Right.
hone in on this opportunity? Sometimes they might, hey, what's up with that thing or that person over there? And we could just, don't talk like that. Or it could be, you could get down at their level and actually have a very intentional conversation and explain it to your kids.
Right.
Because if they're asking questions, they're going to ask someone else for that question. And who do you want pouring into your kids? Do you want your neighbor pouring into your kids, or do you want yourself pouring into your kids? And so I think that's one thing that's really good. I think the other thing is, life's not easy. Life's hard, and there's lots of things there's lots of obstacles and barriers that we come across as we navigate these experiences. That we don't want our kids to grow up thinking just because it's hard, you shouldn't do it. I heard a quote for the very first time this weekend, and I absolutely love it. And that is, don't tell me that you can't, just tell me it's hard. So,
that's good.
I'll tell my son's in BMX, and like, hey, you need to go do this. This is your next thing you need to. Dad, I can't do it. It's too hard. It's like, no, you can. You just have to work on it. And it's okay to work on things that are hard. But don't tell me you can't do it. Because God has given all of us the ability to do a lot.
Yes.
And we just have to try.
You're right, though. As parents, we have to be taking those steps to be a step ahead, to continue to see those moments and be able to pour into them. You just learned that phrase this weekend. You could have been moving along through life and it just passed you by and you missed it.
Yep.
But you were able to pass that on now to your kids. So we have to be intentional as parents, walk the path. The wins of parenting that we teach here at Abundant Life. Walk the path. Initiate weekly God conversations. Never miss a God moment.
That's right.
Those are the WINs, the wins that we're all about. And so being intentional and trying to get our family outdoors, trying to get our family away from screens, but in places where we can be intentional about teaching them through experiences. Thank you so much for sharing these things.
Great.
We just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
We need
Truly.
to have you come back and bring Charissa with you and talk some more, go deeper into this. But I thank you for bringing your experience with us. Teach them.
Definitely. My pleasure.
Hey, I'd like to close this in prayer. Is that all right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you, Lord, for I thank you for Drew, his whole family, and I just pray that you continue to help them as they prepare for child number 5 and the excitement that it brings to have all these kids under 10 years of age. Lord, I pray that you help them to continue to be to initiate and to plan ahead for all of these experiences. But thank you for the wisdom that they brought to us today. We love you, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Drew.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Abundant Life Family Podcast. If you found this helpful for your family, hit like and subscribe below. And feel free to drop a comment or question below. To learn more about the Abundant Life Family Ministry and the 10-mile markers to help you win at building families that last, go to our website at livingproof.co/family.